Welcome back to the Rockhound Podcast. It is so good to see you and hear you tonight, at least in a virtual way. Super warm welcome to anybody who's new to the channel. Thank you so much for checking us out. We've got our crew in the room, and we're talking about rocks and people that rock, and you guys are that. And so we're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves. I'm Karen with Ozone Fine Art Ventures, as west as you can get on the lovely Oregon coast. How about you, Kyle?
And I'm Kyle with World of Rockhounds. I'm kind of as west as you can get, not quite as far as Karen. So yeah, Kyle, World of Rockhounds, aka the man behind the curtain here on the Rockhound Podcast. Kurt.
And my name is Kurt from Rock.Hounding.Adventures out in Western Colorado, which is actually a little bit east from where they are, but just a couple states over. Yeah, it's cold and hopefully it starts to warm up soon.
Well, I hope you can grow a beard to kind of help fight that coldness over there.
Oh, I know. It was so cold last night. Like I was dreaming about growing a beard. Like,
if only.
Well, if only.
If only.
Well, that was introductions. So now we can go ahead and get into the shouts. So Karen, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and doing that.
Absolutely. First off, thank you, Jeff, so much for coming on the show. I have a feeling we have so much more to see from you. So I hope that you can come back. Go check out the show with him. The trilobites were amazing. Julie McKenna had a great time listening to Jeff's stories. Lisa Largent, 45, did too, and gave him credit for all the Christmas presents that happened. That's so cool. She said the podcast keeps on getting better and better, and she said it wasn't because she was drinking. And Cynthia loves Jeff's channel, and welcome to the Discord, Cynthia. Thank you so much for joining. Watching Jeff's finding the trilobites was so intense. Kurt, have you ever found a trilobite?
I personally haven't yet. It's always been a big dream of mine to find some. When I lived out in Kentucky in 2018, I went out to a couple areas in eastern Kentucky trying to find a place to hunt them, but I never actually had the chance to actually find one. So it's still definitely on my list, and I hope to find one in the future. And since we had Jeff on last week, I plan on when I can travel out to Western Utah and going out to the spot and finding some. So
awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, Dustin and Jeff hang out doing just that. So Dustin Finds Rock was so happy that Jeff was on the podcast, and it would be such a blast to have them both on the show at the same time, don't you think?
I think they'd be amazing because one, they live pretty close. I mean, right? I mean,
yeah, I think so. I mean, they could jump on the Zoom together, but it would be fun to have them in the same room as well.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So go ahead.
I was gonna say that make for a good long podcast.
I know it.
Go and tell us for days.
We could get them tired after a long day of hunting. Well, that would probably go on for even longer, though. They'd have all the fresh stuff to show us. And Kyla wrote us some super nice comments, as she always does. And so you guys need to go over there and read her comments. They're always like a nice block of fun to read. She loved the wire wraps of Kurt's. She was happy to know that the man in green is still there. And yeah, she just leaves the sweetest thoughts. Sandmaker checking in from Globe. We used to call it Glob. When I lived in Arizona, he's in the exact area that my mom and I visited the Chamber of Commerce ore cart and took a couple of samples more than we were probably recommended to. And try a PMC, if not silversmithing. I agree with that. Ivan Lopez, the Adventure Closet, all of you out there that are chatting away in the chat, you know that we love you. We also love you guys over on the Discord, and it's been super fun. There's new faces there. And you can podcast all the way through the week and be an active part of it. It's basically what we do here, but everybody gets to play. Hit the email for the invite for getting onto the Discord. And of course, send us your beautiful finds that you've been getting all week long. And well, since the last viewer show and tell, go ahead and send those in. I know a bunch of you said, oh, I always forget or whatever. And we'll go ahead and compile the next viewer show and tell for you. The email for both the Discord and the shows and tells is in the description.
rockhoundroundtable@gmail.com.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's important to make sure to get those shows and tells in, because we want to be able to have enough pictures to make a long enough video for like when we happen to do the show and tells, because we like having our long formatted podcasts. Granted, yeah, we've had a few really long ones, but it doesn't feel like a long time for us. Like we can make in 2 hours seem like it's like 30 minutes.
Absolutely.
It's yeah. But even like even for like when we have done like the away shows, like when we took like the vacation or like need a day off, we need like a lot of pictures to really like make that time seem longer, because there's that one where I just literally went through my entire collection to take as many pictures as I could to fill up as much space as I could. So like,
oh yeah, that slideshow for the holidays. Yeah,
that one was kind of rough. Like I think I took what, a couple 100 pictures, something like that.
Wow.
And I would have loved to have the extra time to be able to go through there and had put tags on like what they were, because a few people have asked like, hey, what was that? I'm like, oh, let me go check.
Yeah, actually that's a really good thing to bring up for the folks that are sending them in. Some people tell me like, hey, why don't you just take the ones that I had on the Discord? Because we have a whole show and tell section in the Discord, which is so much fun. People are also trying to get IDs there and that sort of thing. So you get to flex your identification muscles over there. But it's really great to include the name of what you think that the specimen might be in the show and tell, maybe where it came from, maybe a brief story for us to tell about it, because sometimes we're just like, and here's this thing. Like you move on to the next slide. And so people totally would love to hear like a little story about it or what have you, and so include that when you send it in.
Yeah,
that would be great. Yeah. And so shows and tells are always so much fun to see.
Yeah, so get those pictures in, because we want to get them.
Yes, we do.
So send it to that email right now. Oh, wait till after the podcast.
Yeah.
Set a reminder on your phone. Hey, send a picture to our friends at the Rockhound Podcast, because we all want to see your cool rocks and show them off to the rest of the world.
Totally.
So, Karen, thank you for all the shouts.
Mm-hmm.
And now we can get to how everyone's week was. Well, I feel like I haven't done a week of how it was in quite some time, because like I've been trying to remain in the background. But with Theo being on a nice Florida vacation right now, somewhere where it's warmer than where Montana's at as far as temperature goes, here I am. So hello, I'm Kyle. For those that may have forgotten. The last couple weeks have actually been pretty good. I've been doing more live sales on Saturdays, so that's been kind of tying up basically almost my entire weekends. Is I spend like last couple of lives have been like four to 5.5 hours of just me doing a live sale, and then that evening I prep everything for invoicing, and then the next day it's just basically getting the invoicing out, on top of like trying to spend time with Amy and River too. So the weekends are pretty much packed full of stuff. And on top of everything else, I have projects that need to get done with everything else. So it's like I've been busy. I've been very busy. If I can find a way to clone myself, I would do that, but I can't. And River's not quite old enough to help Dad out without messing things up as far as like putting stuff where they're not supposed to be going. Oh gosh, what else? Yeah, I think it's work and live sales, and that's basically been keeping me busy pretty well. I am looking forward to at some point taking a week off of vacation from my normal job at some point, so I get caught up with everything here in the shop, and then start with a fresh slate. Because the long-term goal is to do more than one live sale a week, and do smaller live sales. I think maybe on Facebook to kind of see how it does. If not, then do like dedicated shorter live sales, um like during the weekday in the evening, of like, let's say, do a couple different type of cabs just for like an hour, and then kind of go from there. Because ideally it'd be nice to do the rock thing full time, but right now I can't quite do that. So trying to make plans work. And that's just, yeah, I guess that's kind of how my week's going right now.
Right on.
But
You've been
yeah,
moving and a shaking. That's awesome.
yeah. Um, it's been nice. So I'll go ahead and pass on to you.
Thanks,
Oh my God.
Kyle.
Okay.
All right.
Make sure I get the right person in the spotlight.
Got it. My week, you guys already know, everybody together now, faceting. So doing more of that, having a lot of learning curve happening. And I realized that I had some Valentine's Day and other orders come in, and I looked around my space and I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta get organized first. Have you ever had it where you just like can't get to a certain thing that you need to do because there's just so many little chores ahead of it that you're just like, I just
Yes,
can't
all the time.
And like it was almost like it was taking all the wind out of my sails to be able to like be creative and to visualize some of the projects, like some jewelry projects that I have going on, or getting into my next stone, which pretty much like marries me to that machine. For as long as that stone is going, it's very hard for me to break away. And so I'm looking around, I'm going, okay, this has to happen first. And so I got some things organized, and it's amazing how that tidies up your brain. Like all of a sudden I'm more creative and I like being in my studio. And you just reconfigured your studio area, didn't you, just Kyle, to help with those live streams?
Yeah, so basically what I did was gosh, I wish I had like a mirror, but the wall behind the computer here, I'll just do this. I can unplug the laptop. That helps.
Look, he's mobile. Oh my gosh.
So, like these shelves right here, I made it so that there's lights underneath like this trim right here, so like it doesn't really show on the camera. But I have it so like I can have all the big stuff here on the shelf in front of me, and that makes it easy for me to like pull down and reach and like organize, because like every sale is kind of different and we're set up a little bit differently. And then I have shelving there. All my boxes I have all nice and organized there, and then my work clothes are in the way. That's whatever. Anyway, but behind me is that shelf. So orders that are either open boxes or haven't gone out yet are up there, and then projects and other stuff is down here, and then the shelf this way down. Those are all plastic totes that are completely organized and alphabetized. So everything is completely OCD to the point where it's ridiculous.
So it just makes the task so much easier, and you don't have as much dread going into a thing that might be hard anyway. Like sometimes I get intimidated by my own projects, and I'm like, okay, I have this idea in my head of what I want to do, but this is going to take a lot of focus or a lot of whatever talent I think I have or whatever. And so it really helps a lot to have the studio ready for being able to produce such a thing. And so I had to actually tweak some of the dops that I have for my faceting machine weren't specifically the ones for my machine, but there is a hack where you can make it into such a thing. And I went from having two sets of dops, which is like one stone going on one and one stone going on the other, and that's it, to I just expanded having I think it's 3 more sets. And that was like a job that was really intimidating to do, and I didn't want to do it until I was like firmly solid. And so actually, preparing my work area was the way to get to that. And so anyways, that's my week. And Kurt, how about you?
So my week has pretty much been exactly how it's been for the last day or two. I mean not the last day or two, the last like week or two. It's been cold outside. I haven't really been able to go do much. I was able to get out and go cutting, and I cut up a couple pieces of the stromatolites that were encased in limestone that have also calcite and sometimes travertine in them. Trying to think. I've still been doing some wire wrapping, and what else? I think. Oh, I finally was able to edit together and put out the stromatolite video that went out on Monday, or no, went out on Tuesday, down in the canyon out in Mesa County, rock hounding the stromatolites, and then travertine with stromatolites. And very soon I'll be making. Someone suggested that I do like a what's it called? Not a timeline, but like where you like fast forward.
A time lapse.
Time lapse, yes, time lapse. Someone told me to do a time lapse of cutting a stone all the way to cutting to polishing to wire wrapping. So just like a 5-minute video of doing all of that. So I'll probably be doing that in the near future. And
Nice.
Awesome. We can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
There was a resounding boom of acceptance for that idea.
So that's pretty much what's been going on, and hopefully it starts warming up soon. Last night was the coldest night so far. It was -8 degrees, and
wow.
I walked outside for like 5 minutes, came back, and there was like ice crystals like around my nose. I also went rock hounding last night in the sky. I was looking for a green comet.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I may have found it, but I'm not sure.
I was
looking through with binoculars, but I was shaking so bad I couldn't tell if I was looking at it or not. So,
wow.
But that's pretty much been my week.
Well, thank you for sharing your weeks.
Yeah.
And now we can get to the meat of the show. So today's show is kind of different IDs, and so we all have different things we're going to talk about. And I think we're going to kick it off with a little bit of Rainbow Obsidian. So for this, we're going to start off the ID section of today's podcast with Rainbow Obsidian. I'll talk about Fire Obsidian a little bit later. So we're going to take a cross cut of. Okay, pretend this is a crosscut of Rainbow Obsidian. So I do have some specimens here. I know, it's so white and so vivid.
Good, yeah.
So
high tech.
Rainbow Obsidian, the layers that make up the different colors, they're actually microscopic gas bubbles that kind of give the different colors of all the different colors and different layers. And of course, different varieties from different locations will have like different compositions on the inside. They'll give off the different colors. Rainbow Obsidian, the layers are typically very, very uniform, which makes it perfect for lapidary and for artists to be able to take something like this and make any kind of shape out of. For example, let's just pretend we're making a cab. So if you take a very uniform stone that has uniform layers, you can make a cab and get a lot of those colors in on that cab, or you can make it shallower, you can make it deeper, however, but again, I have examples here. So this, we'll have a picture, I'll have a better video. This is one of the first pieces I ever polished, and I'll try to get a good video of the bottom part here too, but the layers are very uniform. They're just straight across. They're very perfect for, again, making shapes where we can like show off all the different layers and the different colors. This right here is actually one of the very first pieces of Rainbow Obsidian I ever received. It was a gift when I was younger in high school. It's a heart. I was at a little rock shop. I'll have a better video here too. A little rock shop there in California. And the owner, so they couldn't afford $20 to buy a cool rock, they just gave this to me. And I'm pretty sure this is rainbow obsidian from Mexico. You can kind of see some of the colors. No, not really. Again, I'll have a video. It'll be over my face right now. So having the striations being straight like that makes it perfect for doing lapidary projects that allowed to shape and make interesting like hearts, or I've seen four-leaf clovers. And I'll talk about fire obsidian later, but rainbow obsidian, the layering is extremely uniform. Like this is velvet obsidian. Same thing. May not look like it on the zoom camera, but again, I'll take another video. The layers in the entire piece are all incredibly uniform. I don't know why it does it. I'm not a geologist, but to me, I find it super interesting that you have different varieties of obsidian where they flow differently, where one is this uniform and the other one is not. And again, I'll get to that later. But even some of these pieces that I've been selling in my live shows, like again, these are like little eyes, or they're called eyes because they found that section of the straight layers and they just cut it and then cabbed it to bring out the eye. But same thing with the cabs. If they can cut it just right along that layer, they can have nice little perfectly made cabs to accent a very like this. Let's pretend there is, getting all high tech with my pieces of paper. So we'll just pretend that the top layer is blue, bottom layer is purple, and middle layer is green. So ideally, if someone wanted to not really have this blue section here, they could just grind down a little bit further and then they have green, and they have green and purple. And you have two different accents, two different colors. Me personally, I see the green and purple like rainbow obsidians. I call them the Joker obsidian because it reminds me of Batman's Joker a little bit. Yeah, I like how uniform it is, and that's one way to kind of identify the difference between rainbow and fire obsidian. But there are some rainbows. I didn't bring one of the pieces in with me. I call it my galaxy piece because it has like a bunch of little ash pockets in there, but you can't see the layers in the obsidian at all. But it's rainbow. It's weird. It's like a weird sheen like color. But even this piece right here, the zoom should actually pick up this is a type of rainbow obsidian, and the layers again are very uniform all the way across. They don't waver. They don't go all over the place. So, and that was my TED Talk on rainbow obsidian. Kept it short, brief. Hopefully, I made some sense. And I'll go ahead and pass it on to Karen. What do you got today?
Well, I have some things off of the beach, and I think that as far as identifications go, there's a lot of different questions that I notice when people are trying to get into identifying, although I get a barrage of them on the beach. And one of the things is shells. And so a lot of people don't know how to tell the difference between a fossil shell and a contemporary shell. And those of you who find them, especially if you found it in the middle of Colorado or in Utah or some such place, you're going like, it's probably a fossil shell. A little bit harder when you're actually on the coast. And so I have, this has some tiny little shells in it from Kurt. He shared this piece of shells in the matrix. They're really tiny. And so, okay, yeah, that's a fossil. And I believe that Theo sent me this one. And that was from Montana. And so, yep, that would be a fossil. But then Theo also sent me this. and it busts a couple of the ways that you would know what a fossil shell on the Oregon coast looks like, but this one's from the Florida coast. One of the things about our fossil shells from Oregon is that they have matrix material on the inside, like 100%, unless it was hanging out in yet a bigger void. That would be like the one way that a fossil shell would make it. And so this particular one I polished, actually, I've got a video of it. And I used to have these in my gallery just to show off. And people would be like, well, how do you know it's a fossil shell? And I'd be like, I found it. Well, how do you know it's a fossil shell though? You know, it doesn't come in a package that you can read the ingredients and sure enough, it's, you know, verified fossil. And so the one, this guy started off looking like this guy. It was covered with crust. A lot of times they're in matrix material. These particular ones love to hang out in, or actually get covered by, the bryozoa from, you know, 15 million years ago. They were hermit crabs crawling around on the ocean floor, and they got covered, and they grew a little reef on their back, and that's what that porous material is. Well, if you pick all of that off, you get something like this. These are the same kind of shell.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so you can see telltale sign for Oregon coast fossil shells anyway. It's filled with matrix material. And then we have the matrix material of another kind on the outside. And then, you know, you can find the nacre of the shell, and they take a polish so well, says Kyle. Because that's a polish. That's not like me putting, you know, epoxy on that bad boy or anything like that. I wouldn't dream of it. It's so shiny. I love shiny things. And so, but if you're over on the Florida coast, then you're finding fossil shells that look a whole lot more like this. And, you know, they're spectacular, and they come pre-prepped. You don't have to prep them. So you don't need the tools or anything. You can just go ahead and pick them up off of the beaches or the roads. They find them in all kinds of neat places. And of course, everywhere in between in the country, you have the possibility, just depending on what layer of history you happen to be wandering around in, finding those shells. And that's where provenance comes in. So where did it come from? And the people that are in the area can probably answer the questions. Is it okay for me to take it? And if so, then what is it? You can go ahead and start checking the different I love my local science library that the university has. I can go down there and I can check their databases to find out. And sometimes there's people there that will actually help me. Like I can just ask them what it is. So that's really helpful. If you want to take a picture of your specimen and share it with others. So I don't know what this is. One of the best things that you can do is take several different vantage points, right? Have some kind of a measuring device either in the picture or something that will give it scale, like a quarter or something that's easily recognizable. Because then if you're sharing these pictures with other people, they don't have to ask that many questions. They can just go straight to helping you identify. I know that this is very dodgy to do online. There's lots of good forums, and then there's lots of really sketchy places to ask questions. You know, you might actually get just hate, 100% hate and nothing else. But it is a way, like if you're even just sharing pictures with experts on email or something like that, take several well-lit, crisp pictures and include a scale reference. And if you can provide the provenance of, almost exactly where this thing came from, then your identifiability just massively increases. And you also don't, give the person on the other side of the question a headache. So that is my little tutorial about shells.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
It's very helpful, considering that a lot of us usually live on the west or east coast and get a lot of shells. So
Well, I think it's
You got-
in the middle part of the states too.
They're everywhere.
So again, thank you, Karen. And now we can go on to Kurt.
So today we're going to talk about agates, and this is going to be very brief and short. So when you're out rock hounding for agates on rivers or beaches or wherever, if you're not sure how to identify one of the first things is look for something that glows. Like as long as the sun is out and like shining down on whatever you're looking at, an agate's gonna glow. Like it's gonna be very translucent. Like I would show you, but I don't know if this is going. I try this all the time. It doesn't ever work. But
but we have to give it a go every show.
Must try every time.
Here, I can do it this one. It will glow like the sun is hitting it, so you'll be able to see it. Quartz will sometimes do that, but not as much as agate. And agates range in a range of colors. Normally, if you find any agates that have like a burnt orange or a brown or almost like an orangish red, that's going to be considered a carnelian. And from natural heating of the earth temperatures and stuff, it will change the color of the agate. And then, so like agates can sometimes form with quartz and in vugs of any source of material. This piece right here is a piece of lace agate from Missouri from Hunting Routes.
Nice.
We had Jeff on last week. This is a piece that Lisa bought from him and sent to me for a Christmas gift a while back, or for Christmas about a month ago. And you can see some really nice, beautiful banding. Agates normally always have some type of banding in some way or form. And then there's normally, most of the agates that I've seen have quartz attached to them. So like there's some nice quartz crystals, and then you got some nice druzy crystals as well. So that's one of the more basic ways to identify an agate, is how it glows in the sun.
And it's got bands.
And it's got bands, really beautiful bands. So
or fortification lines or layers, water lines.
Yes.
All this.
Yes, there's a lot of different varieties of bands. Laces,
yeah,
and
metal bands and
so I hope that
soft rock yachts.
I hope you were able to follow along with that.
Yes.
Short process.
Yes.
Well, thank you for your little ID section on agates. Much appreciated. Now we can get into the next section of IDing stuff, and we're going to kick it off with fire obsidian. So here we go.
Cool.
Okay, so fire obsidian. It's not quite the same as rainbow obsidian. It's got different genetic mineral makeups inside of it that make it do its thing, that separate it completely from the rainbow obsidian that you guys seen earlier. So, and I'll put more videos and pictures kind of here just so you can get a better idea, because this zoom camera is not going to really do anything justice, because I wish I could just show you, because I have pieces here on hand. Granted, when you're looking at these videos, don't judge me. These ones are polished a long time ago before I got better at it, so they're not perfect. But what I did do also, before I start putting up pictures of the actual material, so this is an example of, let's say, like a crosscut of a fire obsidian piece. Unlike rainbow obsidian, fire obsidian is very ununiform in the fact that it does not always grow in very straight lines. It can, but it's not common. Like, you can have layers literally going everywhere. And you guys will see an example piece of what I mean. And that's why it makes it extremely difficult to actually cut a piece of fire, because it does what it wants. So, for example, you have a fire layer that is going through every single piece. So this line right here, how are you going to get that cut? There's layers that you're going to have to consider. And also, there might be one fire layer in a chunk. There could be several fire layers in a chunk. You have to pick and choose which ones you want to have to grind away and the material's not exactly easy to come by. So you get to really pick and choose and be careful doing so, because if you have, I'll do another example here. If you have a fire layer going in each direction, you're going to look at that piece. Is this one more brighter than this one? Which one are going to have to cut? So this is the kind of things I have to face all the time. Like, if I see a brighter layer underneath an already like mediocre layer that I've been working, I have to make sacrifices, and it sucks because I hate waste. I hate grinding away layers because it just kills me to do it, because I just love the colors and just the different patterns you can get in the material. But like this piece right here, and again I'll have videos, but this piece right here has layers that literally fold in on itself, and it's crazy. But there's another layer, like I showed you, where like it crosses through every single one of those layers, and I call it summer fire because it's more of a yellow orange color. And the layers on top of it are not quite necessarily like a full grade fire, but they are kind of they are technically a magnetite layer. But it's just that nanocrystallized condensed layer that's actually more prominent, is that yellow layer. Or like this piece right here. Just gonna find it here. Maybe it might show up on camera a little bit. Maybe not. No, it doesn't. Anyways, I'll have a video. This silver, there's actually a small silver layer right here, and it kind of cuts into the other layer that's right here. And rather than just grind away and get rid of that little edge, I left it as a cool specimen piece because it goes to show that the fire layer can go through multiple different layers. It does what it wants. It takes advice from nobody. Not even nature. This chunk right here, I got this fairly recently. I paid about $5 for it, and this will also be a future video too, because there are different qualities. Like just like any other gemstone, you have qualities. You have top-notch, superb AAA like color quality fire layers. But then you have pieces like this, where it actually has little tiny ash pockets that are actually throughout the entire stone that can still end up showing in the slab once you work it. Now, the rock shop that I get this from, he doesn't want anyone like out there breaking the rocks to find the fire layers. And from the few videos I've shown of my spoils of me going out there, I never once had to break open a chunk of obsidian to find the color. I just had a spray bottle and a flashlight, a really good flashlight. And I would spend hours out there going every single piece trying to find any hint of color. So paid $5 for this. And I'm pretty sure if the color turns out right, I can probably get, I don't know, a couple $100 out of that one layer, assuming that it turns out right. So the color's there if you know where to look for it. And another thing is too, for the rough chunks, so you're going to find a good example here in this piece, is to look and see if you can find the layers on the crust, especially the stuff that comes from glass butte. It always has like a weird like tan rind to it. And a lot of times you can actually see, you can actually see the different layers of where it's all at in the piece. And you can sometimes see how they're either straight, they're curved, they cross, criss, whatever. They're there. But yeah, that's my TED Talk on fire obsidian. Thank you for joining. Pass it over to Karen. Oh. Karen, you have to unmute accidentally.
Wow. Your turn, and you're muted.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I've got a bone to pick with you. Yeah. So mine is my ID here is a bone. Is this a fossil bone or is it a contemporary bone? Right?
I don't know.
Who would ever know?
That's why we're here.
This question is asked so often on the fossil forums and on the regular forums and on the beach. And so I thought I would bring a little comparo as far as what to look for in the difference. And plus, last week I talked about identifying bone at all. And so this fits in nicely. If you want to go see some nice slides of bone identification, you can go check out last week's podcast as well. But one of the first giveaways is that bone that's young bone is typically bone colored. And so like that is like a dead giveaway, but it's not the only giveaway, because you can have some light colored fossils, but and it's going to depend on the mineralization. But this is one of my dog's bones, and so this is absolutely not. They're like actually waiting outside the door right now with bated breath. Yeah, they were not happy that I took it away. They followed me in here and like took the door in their faces. So bones can permineralize with a lot of different minerals, just like how agates can be all these different colors and whatnot. It just depends on their location and what's filling in as far as the matrix material and whatnot. That's how you get those gorgeous dinosaur bones that have beautiful colors inside their cellular structure, like the oranges and yellows and sometimes blues. This is a mammal bone from the beach, and it's got a cellular structure that gives away the fact that it's a bone for sure. It's not light, so I know that this is after identifying with my loop or my magnifying glass or what have you, that it is a bone in the first place. How do I know if it's a young or old bone? Well, this one, not only does it have crystals in it that I can see, but also it's got like an intense amount of permineralization of different colored materials, and it's got a density. This is another one that we can use for our identification across the board, is what's the gravity of your specimen. So there's gravity tests. You can go ahead and look that up on the internet as well, on how to perform a gravity test. It's easy. You can do it at home. But even just if you're in the field, does this feel, yeah, this is smaller and it's so much heavier. So this is for sure my bone. And another way that they like to tell you to identify a bone in the field is to, but that we're not going to.
Don't even trip.
Don't do it.
I just got the spit take from Jared. And here's another rock with a bone in it. In fact, it's like actually potentially a whole fish skull. And I was talking last week about like how lacy the fish bone can be. And so again, one of my suggestions from last week was get your eyes on a lot of different material. It's going to help you so much to be able to identify it when you're in the field, because I remember seeing somebody pick something up that I would have thrown away in one of their videos. And they were like, yeah, this is a shark vert. And I'm not sure. I think that this is just a fish vert, but I wanted to show you, like, this looks like an eye in a rock, with a lot of little shells around it, right? This is like this perfect little circle. And this is one of my fish verts. And so if I didn't see somebody else like, oh, that's what that is, I've seen that a bunch of times, darn it, like I didn't pick it up. And so get your eyes on like the rock shows, or watch other people's videos or what have you. And you have that source. You've got your own little Google working, at least, that you can identify some of this stuff on the beach or on the plains or wherever it is that you're hunting, space, whatever.
Nice.
Nice.
Well, thank you for your little ID info and tidbits. Now we can go over to Kurt.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about Jasper. For just this one's going to be kind of quick. I have two different types of specimens: river found, and then one that was found like not in the river. How to identify if it's Jasper if you are river hunting? If you look at the stone, and I'll send Kyle a video of this, but you can look if it's been river tumbled or ocean tumbled or whatever, you jaspers and agates kind of have the same fracture marks as to how it was tumbling. And I'll take a couple zoom in clips of this to send Kyle to throw up on the screen. But they normally fracture the same. And the harness of jaspers are also 7 to 8. And they're a lot more opaque where they're not as translucent. But you can find jaspers with agate also included into it. They'll just have more translucent areas of the stone. So if you hold a flashlight up against a stone, it'll be more translucent in one area, that's agate, and the rest of it is probably jasper. So what I was saying about agates earlier, how like agate, like there's some agates out there like Crazy Lace, Laguna Lace, Rosetta Lace, and a lot of other ones that are not fully translucent, but they have more of the lace and bands going on to where they're not really considered as jasper. Jasper is normally like there's like picture jasper, which is normally like stones with like a picture scene. So like this one is a nice picture scene. As to you see the ground, like sometimes you can like the dendrites in the stones can resemble trees and bushes, and then like you have a nice like blue hue, white, yellows that kind of resemble it, like the sun and sky and so forth. So like there's like picture stone jasper, which that's what this is. But sometimes you can get that in whenever you're hunting out in the rivers and stuff, but majority of the time you can't really see it because it's not polished or it's too fractured. This right here is a piece of rough picture jasper. This is called chicken track jasper, and the reason why it's called chicken track, the softer material on the outside is I want to say it's probably like a 2-3 on the hardness scale. You can scratch it with your nail and it scratches off. But like on this one, on this surface right here, it looks like there's chicken tracks from like over time as it was forming, and so it's called chicken track jasper. But just some of the basic ways to help identify jaspers is it translucent? Yes or no. If it's not, then you're one step closer. The hardness of the stone, 7 to 8, location on where you found it, and also the jasper also has like a waxiness, luster feel to it. But so yeah, that's pretty much like basic identification that I use for jasper. There is also there's also I'm not sure if many people talk about this, but for like the hardness 7 and 8, there's majority of minerals that fall into that hardness, like jaspers, agates, calcine, rhyolite, rhyolite. I'm not sure if I pronounced that properly. And then chert, flint, and I think quartz may fall into the bracket as well. But most of those stones, if you clash them together, they'll shoot out a little spark, and you'll get like a slight burning smell. Most of the time, only those minerals will fall into that category. So like that's another way you could try it. Take your two stones and just kind of clash them together, see if it shoots out a spark. Because that's another helpful identification method you could use that I've used in the past while hunting chert and jasper and stuff. So yeah.
That's good to know. Well, thank you, Kurt, for your ID on jasper. And now we can actually go into the third segment, which I'm going to start off with UV lights. For this segment of kind of IDing, kind of, sort of, but not really. I mean, it helps for IDing stuff. We have UV lights. So there's a lot of brands out there. This little one right here, and I just put some fresh batteries in there. I'm going to put a video in post-edit. But this one, yeah, I'm put the video in. It's not going to show here on the camera. This little tiny flashlight is garbage, in my opinion. Like it does not look nice. It doesn't have, especially when it comes to taking photographs or video, this has like a violet, like purple hue to it when you're trying to photograph something, and that's not appealing when you want a nice picture of something. But also when you're trying to look for rocks that fluoresce underneath of UV light, the distance that you need is not great on this. Like you have to get really up close with this little itty bitty light, which is not fun. And this video is not sponsored, just so you all know. But this is a UV beast light. I can't remember if it was shortwave or long wave. I always get those two mixed up. Either way, I digress. This is a 365 nanometer UV beast UV light. Amy got this for me for my birthday the year before last, and it was a great present. When you're doing videos or photographs, this does great because it has that weird purple hue of light to it. And you have a much longer reach. You don't have to sit there really close to the ground to get like a good photograph or picture, or just be able to search for whatever it might be fluorescing. So, thing is, do not point this at your eyes. Do not do it. This also gets really hot. It can get really hot. So, yeah. So if you find yourself on Amazon, searching UV Beast. Now, I should also mention too, when you buy this on Amazon, it should come in a box. I've seen someone else, or they actually emailed me first, where they had ordered one of these online. They got it packaged loosely in a like a bubbler, or it was loose in a box, not the actual box for this, but it was a normal box
That's
or
weird.
bag. Yeah, it was really weird. And it didn't come with the instructions. It didn't come with I think a couple other things, but it didn't work for them at all. So they
Scammed.
believe, yeah, or it was just repackaged. Like maybe someone returned it,
Yeah.
or they broke it and returned it. It should come in a box. So fair warning. If it doesn't come in a box, send it back. But that's going to do it for my little ID thing. Oh, hold on. Yeah, that's going to do it for my ID thing. So yeah, if you need a good tool to ID, I guess kind of ID specimens or tell the difference between something that's fluorescent and not fluorescent, get a nice UV light. If you have one of these, just throw it away. Like that's about as it's a purple.
It's pretty.
paperweight. Yeah,
It's purple pretty. That's it.
Right
yeah,
on.
that's it. So I'm gonna pass it over to Karen.
Thanks, Kyle.
You're welcome.
We were just having a conversation over on the Discord, actually. Somebody wanted a stone that was a very small and already cut to what you would get as far as a faceting rough piece. Like, so we're talking maybe, an inch by an inch or something, and was cut. And so we were asking questions like, how hard is it? And all the different questions. Well, the UV was actually what helped us end up finally deciding that it was probably cubic zirconia. And so I thought that was so cool that we went through all the different possibilities, and it wasn't soft enough to be this, and it was harder than that. And we, it was the UV that pretty much hit the home run on that. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's, the information is so readily available. It's not like I knew, I just did a quick Google search, like, okay, what glows orangey red, that, I had a couple suspicions, and sure enough, and that's so cool. Anyway, so, my shows and tells, or rather the ID, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the petrified woods, because a lot of people out when you're in the field, you don't know that you've come across a piece of petrified wood. And so there's like some ways to figure it out, but not all of them look like quintessentially like a log. Actually, Jared from Currently Rockhounding sent me this guy. I believe it's from his Utah trip. And it
Nice.
so looks like, yeah, it's just,
That's awesome.
It's a piece of wood, you guys. And
That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's my wood.
That's the easy, okay, you're definitely wood, even all muddy. You just would maybe mistake it as a piece of driftwood or, fallen wood that might still be wood. And we get that a lot on the coast where you think it's a piece of wood and it's not, it's actually petrified wood. And so actually this is a piece of petrified wood from the coast. And I don't know with some dust on it. So I just wanted to show that sometimes the petrified woods can be, of course, different colors. It doesn't like, oh, it's brown, so it's possibly wood. These are black woods, and this one's from the Willamette Valley, and it doesn't look like petrified wood except for the outside. If you were to see the outside, it's got like kind of a grainy pattern. This one doesn't look like wood at all, except for we've got some striations there that give it away, and gosh, it looks like there was a spider living on that one too.
My home.
And so here's one that Kyle gave me. And so this is looking a lot more like just a rock. And so you might be out in the field and you might go, okay, there's a nice rock, and you pick it up and you get the mud off of it and you're going, well, that still could be totally like, especially volcanic rock structure, so I'm still not knowing what this is. So maybe you strike it with a hammer or something like that to get it to cleave, and we can start figuring out what kind of mineral it is. And it definitely has that kind of waxy feel like, oh, maybe that's agatized or something like that. But we still don't know, is that just a piece of agate or is that a piece of wood? My favorite tool for figuring out whether it's wood, and I don't leave home without this. I literally, every single trip I go on for rock hounding, I take my jeweler's loop. And if you don't have a jeweler's loop, actually a regular spyglass of any kind will work, and they make them small. Although my brother was able to get a jeweler's loop in a pinch at our local pawn shop.
Nice.
So
that's awesome.
If you're like, how do I find a loop, like that's something that I gotta have. So you might want to call around a little bit, because we were able to find one right here in town, and this is a town of like one horse. And so I was like, yes, we even have them here. So once you have your loop out, what are you looking for? Cellular structure. And a lot of times the cellular structure, it can look a lot of different ways, but you've seen wood. You probably have it on your closet doors or your floors or something. You start knowing those different patterns, even when it's cut different directions. And of course, the stone's going to have some of those same patterns. If you have something that'll magnify to the extent that you can see, okay, you know what? One line of lines, I don't know. That's not a dead giveaway. Here's a doppelganger. This is rhyolite. Did I think I was picking up a piece of petrified wood when I first saw it? Yeah, I did. I don't know.
I guess you were right or wrong.
That
was bad. That was a bad joke.
Yeah, but you have a quota to fulfill, Kyle. So
that was a bad quota,
though. Yeah. So when I'm looking at, oh yeah, that has all of the, the grain pattern that I would totally expect, like loaded in lines. And so out comes the loop. I take a close look. There's zero structure as far as any cellular structure that you could identify. It's just compressed crystals. And that's one of my first, like, oh, I'm wondering. And another one is provenance. Where did you find it? And then you can start comparing it to some of the sedimentary rocks that are nearby. And if you don't have that information, you can always ask. And so, yeah, with the petrified woods, you have ones that look like wood. You can see some grain patterns on the inside. Check that out. The other thing is to look under a microscope. There's so many different Google searches that you can take to like get cell structure of wood. If you see it even just in a hand lens, you can go look that up, and it's a cool little world. Check it out. Them's my petrified wood ID suggestions.
Thank you.
Nice.
Now we're going to go over to Kurt.
Next is Calcini. Calcini ranges in multiple different colors, but the majority of the chalcedony that I've seen, it ranges mainly between like whites, creams, blue hues. And chalcedony is normally identified for it being more translucent and clear, no bands or stripes. There's it normally if you get like a flashlight, it'll just fluoresce like crazy. You can't even see the stone because it's fluorescing.
It's the sun. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sunglasses.
There's like so like chalcedony is also so like earlier when I was talking about agates and jasper, agates and jasper both go into chalcedony. They're in the same family. It's just like I was saying, jasper's more opaque, where agate has normally more like laces and bands and stuff running through it. So chalcedony, you can identify it from the how it feels. It has that really waxy feel, kind of luster to it. If you are hunting where they're rough or if they're in the river, they'll still have like a slight lustery sheen to it where the fractures are. If you find it in rough, sometimes it'll have like an outer like peel, like softer material on the outside. So like one way to help identify it, cut it open, like put it on a saw, cut it open and see what's on the inside. Sometimes you'll have like a good 1/8 layer of like other minerals compacted together to where it's covering up the chalcedony part. Let's see. One thing you don't want to do, don't lick rocks. Like don't taste the rock. That's not going to help identify it. Do not taste it. You can smell it, just don't taste it.
I like the smell of rocks.
Even smelling like can be questionable.
Smelling, it can, depending, like you got to know your rock.
Yeah, don't was one I have one in my collection I sniffed and I didn't really pay attention to it. I think it was orpiment. Orpiment? Either way, it's not good. I smelled sulfur for the rest of the day. It was not good.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. I guess be careful, but smelling's a little easier than licking, but yeah. And then like another good test is you can do I was recently trying to identify a stone, and I knew about you could scratch a stone for the hardness. Chalcedonies, jaspers, and agates, they all range between like 7 to 8 on the hardness scale. But Karen reminded me of the what was it? Not the scratch.
Streak.
The streak test, which is scratch it and see if the color is different whenever you scratch it than what it should be of the stone. And then you can use that to like subtract off your list of different tests that you've done to help better identify it. And then also by location, where you found this, you can look up. So like this piece right here came from Utah. So like if I didn't know if it was chalcedony, I would probably search online for like a creamish translucent rock found in this part of the state, and that can help with identification as well. So those are just some of the basics for chalcedony that I use.
That's awesome. Yeah. That streak test. A lot of people will actually just have in their gig bag a piece of broken porcelain, like break a plate, and if you need to, you can sand glaze off. People have talked about how this is kind of gross, but the toilet in a rock shop will, like, the bottom of it will be scraped because people are checking the street.
I've done it at home too. Just like flip that lid over.
Oh, you're in trouble with Amy. It's a good way.
You can't get in trouble for it. It's like, oh, it's fine.
But yeah, and then that's another place where the internet is really great, because you can get your streak and it'll tell you, okay, if it's iron, it's going to be this color. If it's, some other mineral, it's this color. And so it's very handy, especially with some of the metallic minerals that you wouldn't know the difference between because of their oxidation. And so just
very true.
Yeah. Well, for my words of wisdom, I gotta say, sometimes you just gotta clean it out to be able to see ahead at all. I needed to take a chance and clean out some of the stuff in my studio, and I found stuff that I had totally forgotten about. So these rocks and those tools and that sort of thing. But most importantly, I actually was having trouble getting to my next project because it was like kind of looming over me and I was having trouble thinking. My mom always used to say that like the room that you're in is kind of like the inside of your brain, and it was just such a disorganization fest. And so I, like sometimes, I don't know if you've ever been constipated, you got to get rid of it. And then all of a sudden everything else is better and brighter and you can move on. So it's definitely like that. And those are my words of wisdom.
Thank you, Karen.
Nice. Thank you.
My words of wisdom. Oh gosh, I am not prepared today at all. I guess my words of wisdom would be prepared. No, I'm kidding. No, I think my words of wisdom is going to be just be kind. Like find something and just do something nice for someone. It costs nothing to be kind. It's free, believe it or not. So it can be anything from giving someone a compliment to helping them. Just be kind. Find someone that you think is not having the best time in their life and just make that positive like interaction with them, make their day a little bit better. And that's my words of wisdom.
Nice. Thank you. For my words of wisdom, I guess I will say, because we are transitioning out of winter and going into like the spring and summer, more people will be going to rock shows and stuff. And a great tip to take with you is a UV flashlight. That way you can shine it on the agates, the crystals, and make sure they're not like glued together or fake or anything of the sort. So, and also we got some merch finally. So there'll be a link in the description. You can go and check out. There's shirts, t-shirts, mugs, stickers, and sweaters. So go check it out. And for the first month, 10% off. And there will be a little promo up there when you click on the link.
Nice.
So excited.
That's gonna be a way to directly help the Rockhound Podcast.
Yep.
I'm going shopping.
Oh, same.
Can't wait.
Same.
I'll instead of seeing in the like cans, you'll be seeing a nice little mug.
I may need to borrow the picture of that file,
Okay.
so like I can actually get embroidered on my work shirt that I do my videos on. So
yeah,
I don't mind screen printed stuff, but like for like my nicer shirts, I do like during like filming and when I go to shows, I like to do the extra mile and do a little bit of embroidering.
Yep. I was thinking of taking the emblem and putting it on one of my like merch shirts, or it's like Rock.Hounding.Adventures, and on the backside Rockhound Podcast, or like same thing on the mug, like one mine, one podcast.
Nice.
Love the idea.
Thank you for your words of wisdom. Now we can go ahead and do the outro side of things.
Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the show. You guys are awesome. Want to remind you to send your beautiful shows and tells in for the next viewer show and tell that stars you. You have to email it to the email listed in our description, and we shall include you in the next one. Plus, if you use that same email us back and a request for the invitation to the Discord, and you guys can experience the podcast fun all week long with all the fun people in the chat and all that. So once again, thanks again for tuning in to the entire podcast, and we will see you next week. Happy hunting.
Rock on.
Rock on.